Ouch. Ouch. I just got stung right on the lip by a yellow jacket. God bless, that hurts. Now that I figured out that 650B is the right wheel size, it's time to start talking about pressure. So I've been running at 35. What I'm gonna do today is I've got about a 7-mile run down here on Watauga River Road, some gravel, mostly gravel, some hardtop. I'm gonna run a lap at 25 PSI, which is what I'm on right now, then do a lap at 35, then do a lap at 30, and we'll see what the differences are. Just finished the first 5 miles on gravel, and I have to admit, that feels pretty good, 25 PSI. Except for getting stung by the yellow jacket, it was fantastic. Initial impressions on the gravel for the 25 PSI, good, fast, smooth as fast. I'm hitting hardtop now, so let's see how they pan out there. Okay, that's the first 14-mile loop. It's 10 miles of gravel and about 4 miles of hardtop and about 600 feet of elevation change over the whole 14. What I thought I was going to find, I didn't find. I thought that the 25 PSI was going to be a little bit slower, but it was pretty nimble. It felt really fast and responsive, and I don't know if it was because it was just that much smoother. It took the baby washboard and kind of really smoothed it out, almost made it go away. The heavy washboard, it wasn't nearly that jarring that I would feel before on the 38s. I think a lot of it is due to maybe also I'm feeling a little more comfortable on the setup. In the cornering, it really bites in the corners on the gravel. You really don't feel any slip. You don't have, the confidence level just goes through the roof when you've got that much rubber in the gravel and that much grip in the gravel. Besides getting stung by the yellow jacket, it was a great first run at the 25 PSI. Now on the hardtop, it felt a little sluggish. It felt like you weren't getting the power transfer that I would normally feel. It just felt like the tires were giving so much that I didn't have that bite. So next run coming up now at 35 PSI. See what happens there. Stick around. I can almost tell the difference immediately at the 35 PSI. And I just mean when I got on the bike, I could tell the difference. The bike just felt stiffer. That makes sense. Second pit stop, this is going from 35 to 25. I'd be lying if I didn't say I expected a difference between 25 and 35. I'd also be lying if I didn't say that I didn't expect as big a difference between 25 and 35. Wow, just an amazing difference. Let me start with where 35 excelled. Obviously, hardtop. It was quieter, it bit a little bit more, probably a long climb on hardtop, that's gonna be a lot better. Everywhere else, 25, I think speed is tough because you never know. I'm doing 3 laps in a row, so you're obviously going to lose a bit maybe on each lap. They're not strenuous laps, but at the same time I am putting out effort. But 25 felt just as fast as the 35 did on the gravel. In the really chunky gravel down by the river, 25 hands down. I definitely had to slow down, I guess is what I'm looking for. Is I went in a little hotter than I probably should have, and I had to slow down. And in that stuff to kind of keep the stability. A couple of times too on some of the turns, it felt like the bike wanted to wash out a little bit in the front. So that's another difference maker. I'm going to take it from 35 to 30, and I'll let you know what that looks like too. Quick depth update on that 25 to 35. Somewhere during the 35 run, I lost some considerable pressure in the rear tire. So I think some of that slippage might actually be due to that, not necessarily due to the difference in the pressure. So somewhere along on that last lap, picked up a really sharp piece of rock that had a little slow leak in that rear tire. So put a little bacon in it, and we're gonna set off on the 30 PSI run, and we'll see how that works out. That wraps up 30 PSI lap. Thoughts on 30 PSI? Performed closer to 25 PSI than it did to 35. It had some of the characteristics where it really smoothed out a lot of the chatter like the 25s did. I never felt like I had to let off the gas on any of the real chunky, nasty sections. The bike felt really strong, stable underneath of me. To be fair, the 35 PSI lap probably for a good part of the second lap back, the second half of the lap back, had that slow leak issue that made the bike feel a little soft, and probably was a lot of the reason that it slipped in the corners. But I still felt the front end wash out some as well, so 35 felt a little strong. I had a viewer of the 650B video comment when I talked about the Ventures throwing up the little pieces of gravel. He suggested maybe a lower pressure, see if that changed that issue. And in fact, it did. At 25 PSI and at 30 PSI, I didn't notice that gravel spit coming off of the tires nearly like I did at 35. And it was a little piece of gravel that got embedded and got driven into that rear tire that caused that slow leak. Now, the bacon held up really well. So that's a good plus, but quite possibly that tread on there picks up those little pieces of gravel, and this one just got driven home and caused that problem. So maybe there's another con for the 35. So the answer to the question for me, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30. You know, you can tinker with it one way or the other, a few PSI, you know, a few numbers one way or a few numbers the other. But right around 30, and you never really, you're going to dial it in exactly. But that seems to me like a spot that hit the mark for me. It performed well on the tarmac, on the hard top. It didn't have the hum that the 25 PSI did. I felt stable across the board. So I'd say hands down 30 PSI for me. And that's where I'm going to start when I get my own setup. And that's it. Let me know what your experience has been with different PSI in the comments below. We'll talk about that on a future podcast episode because I think it'd be great to discuss, and I'd love to have your input. So leave some comments wherever you found this, on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you see it, and let us know what your experience has been. Thanks for watching.